Hi, and welcome to another episode of Nursing Your Way to Wealth, where a mental health nurse and an accountant talk about wealth creation, personal development, and financial independence in the UK to help you live the life you deserve. Hello, and welcome back to another episode. Today, Alex and I, we're going to talk about some work done by Ramit Sethi. So he's a well-known public speaker, especially in the finance space. He's had a show on Netflix. He's written a number of books, one of them being I Will Teach You to Be Rich, which I would recommend as well. Most recently, I've heard him on the Diary of a CEO podcast with Stephen Bartlett, which is decent. And he spoke a little bit about four money types. And that really piqued my interest as in where I fit into that. So today, Alex and I, we're going to talk about each of those four types. We're going to think about how it relates to each of us as individuals. And we're going to think about it as if we're on this kind of fire journey and how they can best serve us and perhaps changes as we kind of graduate through the movements in FI. So, and with that, Alex, let's go.
Yeah, so hi everybody, and yeah, welcome back. So I think it's probably worth just outlining the four different types of um the money, yeah, the four different money types. And so that is a dreamer, an optimizer, a worrier, and an avoider. And so maybe starting right at the beginning of and I think there's probably elements of all of these that people's kind of natural personality would lead to, but I think you probably have an overarching one, and I certainly feel that for myself. But I think like with avoider, the that's where you don't talk about money, you don't look at your bank statements, you are more than likely quite intimidated by money, whether that just be through lack of interest, lack of education, and it kind of I imagine just like whatever comes in goes out, and no real plan is kind of what I took from that. And there's certainly been times in my life, certainly when I was younger, when I probably fell into this category. Um, and I guess, yeah, maybe if we just quickly do them all and then we can chat with what we think. But I think like the worrier, so that's almost the like scarcity mindset of like money, I need to hold on to it. That might, money might run out. Am I going to have enough money to pay the bills? Am I going to have enough money to like, if my car breaks down, what am I going to do with that? And I think there's an element of, and it's natural, I think, to have this scarcity mindset around money. And I think certainly in the context of FI, that's why a lot of the kind of initial advice is to always have like that kind of buffer, that emergency fund, which takes away a certain amount of worry. So if you know that you can cover 3, 6, 9, 12 months, whatever you want of your expenses, that one gives you enough money and enough runway to find new jobs if you lose them. If your car needs a repair, if your boiler breaks, so it hopefully allays some of those worries. Um, there's also then the dreamer, and that is I think one almost the way I see it is like you're a bit of a gambler. You're on a bit in the crypto. You might be investing in super high risk, super low probability outcome kind of investments. So whether that be like private shares, and things like that, with maybe buying lottery tickets with a view of being like, I'm gonna put my money, I'm gonna risk it all to try and I'll make it big quickly. And I think that's certainly I'm certainly less like that. And then optimizer. So this is, I think, as Ramit Sethi describes it, it's like you live in a spreadsheet, everything's planned. You're trying to allocate every dollar to every, trying to invest as much as you can. You've got systems in place and you are optimizing your finances. And so those are the kind of the four types of what I interpret them to be. And I know from my side, that optimizer is definitely the one I am I'm most affiliated with. I think from my numerous models and spreadsheets and plans, everything's got every pound does get allocated at every month, and I think this is a bit of a double-edged sword. I think from my side because I can get probably a bit too obsessive with it, and then sometimes if something doesn't go to plan or you get, it means, I might invest a little bit less this month than last month. I'm almost annoyed at myself, even though that might be, well, I've gone on a holiday, so therefore I've had to spend a bit more money, and ergo I had less to invest. But it can sometimes I think can lead to those types of conflict within myself, and I think I'm hoping I'm getting better at it, but trying to loosen the reins on other things. And maybe that's I guess the stage I'm at now is I'm probably at coast financial independence where I could not put another cent into my accounts and retire at the normal age and kind of just maintain myself in the meantime. That's not what I want to do. Um, but I think that's a hurdle that I've probably got over. I thought, oh, actually, I don't feel too bad about buying a takeaway at the weekend or in buying the nice tomatoes in the supermarket and not the basic ones. Um, but it does get to the point where I do, yeah, and I'm still pretty obsessed with it. I have to be honest. But yeah, I've kind of seen myself go through all the four stages, but I think I'm definitely in the optimizer camp. Yeah, what do you think about that, Alex? Are you?
Hmm. I I don't know if you heard me laugh earlier, but I agree. My thought about you is optimism and optimizing, like one not 100%, but definitely the one you're most aligned with. I mean, you work in money. We run this podcast together. You've written a book about it in your spare time. I imagine most of your bookshelf at home is kind of finance related books as well.
Mhm.
So I think I would agree on your kind of point of view on that. I think I'm a bit of a kind of a blend of a few. I agree with your thoughts on like kind of definitions for each of them, but I mean for avoiding, I just wrote some quick notes. My first initial thought would be like head in the sand, forget about it, cross your
Yeah.
fingers that things will be all right. Something else will come along and you'll be okay. For optimism or optimizer, I've written plan with two exclamation marks. And then in brackets, sometimes to excess. I've written
Mhm.
spreadsheet and maths as kind of key points for that. And it's kind of interrogating each decision you make can be a bit overwhelming, but will get you where you want to go along the FI journey, so long as you don't become kind of all encompassed with it and you're like, oh no, I can't do this because it will make me an extra 40 quid when I'm 65 or whatever. Can be a bit
Mhm.
much. The worry I've written just a constant state of stress and anxiety. And if we think about the some of the science around that, when we're worried and we're stressed, our cortisol and our adrenaline spikes, and we then sometimes we lose our ability to think rationally. So I wonder if people are constantly in those cycles. A, would they be listening to this? Possibly not, but maybe. Then I would think about how to overcome that. Is just to plan as best you can while you're motivated. Plan as much as you can, and when you're not, and your mind wanders, then do something else. For Dreamer, I've written potential, but not always grounded in reality. So it's the shoot
Mhm.
for the moon meme stock
Yeah.
sometimes, but at the same time, that's one end of that spectrum. At the other end, like we have to have dreams, right? Otherwise, why are we doing this? We've got to have a little bit of that, but
Yeah.
not loads. So I think it's a little bit of perhaps each. If I was going to cut one totally, though, for me, it would be the avoider one. I'd like chop that out and suck that off and focus on the rest.
Mhm.
So I think a blend of each of them. Like I'm initially, I avoided it. I was head in the sand, early 20s, not really focused on finances at all. I was just doing many other things, spending too much money on French hatchbacks probably at that time, and not really thinking about what it's like when you're 36, 56, 76, etc. And then I've done a little bit of worrying about it, and I was like, oh, actually, you're nearly 30 now. You probably should start sorting this stuff out. And I started to learn about it, and that worrying phase disappeared. The more I learned, the more educated I became, the less I worried about it. And I was kind of able to mitigate some of that worry because I had a sound financial plan and also you had an emergency fund. As you said, it really alleviates some of that stress and worry. I mean, I worry a little bit about it, but nothing that I lose any sleep over
Mhm.
whatsoever. And in terms of the split between kind of dreaming and optimizing. I do a bit of both. I don't optimize down to the penny or even the pound, to be honest. I, I tell myself I don't have time for that. What I do along this kind of fire path, if I sort the main costs, so housing, food, and transport, I'll keep a close eye on those. The other day to day stuff, I'm not really, I don't kind of scrutinize it. I don't type everything I spend into a spreadsheet. I don't work out potential returns of money I've already spent. That's just like salt in a wound to me. I wouldn't dig that deep into it.
Yeah,
Um, and I also do think quite a lot about where I want to get to. So, say, for example, I want to have, I don't know, a new shed with a hot tub and a gym in 5 years' time, for example. I might think about how much that would cost, do a little bit of research, then figure out how I can get from A to B, realize it might not be feasible on a nurse's salary, and then I'll kind of say, all right, I'll stay at my local gym and cut some of those costs out, have the other bits perhaps. But I think, Alex, you're right. People go through different phases of it, and I would be interested as well if anyone's listening and they're thinking, "Oh, I'm 100% in this category, or I'm half and half, or I'm a little bit of all of it, or actually I used to be this and now I'm something else." Write to us, let us know. We'll drop it into a future episode, or if you want to come on and chat to us about this and how you feel throughout your journey, you're more than welcome to do that. There's an email address below. Send it in, and we'll make it happen. In terms of just changing these over time, I'm hoping that anyone listening is not in the avoiding category, because the act of listening to a personal finance podcast, you're taking a bit of reins, a bit of control
yeah,
over that. But do you think everyone is just an equal split of the others, or do you think the kind of splits are different?
yeah. It's an interesting one. I'd imagine based on our the podcast being quite, we're quite niche in that, it's aggressively investing to retire early. I'd imagine more people than not sit in optimizer. I think I yeah, I wouldn't want to put numbers on it. Maybe 50% there and 25% in the other two, perhaps, based off no no data whatsoever. Um, but I think one thought I was having when you're chatting to it on the worry side is I think there's almost the worry of, oh, I'm losing my money, or you know something might come up and it means I don't have enough money to pay the bills or whatever. And having an emergency fund is one part of that. But I think on the other side is, as I guess, as you start to optimize, starting to invest is part of that optimization, because your money's going to work harder for you than sat in a bank account. I wonder if there's some of these worry traits that, because the stock market's volatile, it goes up and down every day and it's very well publicized, that almost, if you are kind of the natural worrier and see money is incredibly scarce, if that then prevents you from going on to the next level because you're like, oh well, I'm actually quite scared because now my money's gonna it's gonna it's gonna fall, because you know the stock market will fall definitely at some point. So I've seen some friends and some old colleagues of mine that have invested in invested in like the company shares. They've then gone down by a few pence and then they've sold out straight away because they didn't want to lose the money. Um, and I think of my parents who very reluctantly have some money invested in the stock market. Most of theirs is in cash because, oh, we're not going to risk it in that. So I wonder if there is almost a mental barrier to get over to move from that worrier stage to optimizer. I think that might be a bigger jump than say going from a dreamer to an optimizer. If you are kind of just shooting for the moon at every point, it might be an easier. It's actually less risky, I guess, going to the optimizer way.
Yeah, I think you're right. The one thing I was thinking about whilst you were chatting is it might be an education thing. So I
Mm,
feel very safe in kind of the investing journey, or as safe as I can do. I don't feel 100% certain of anything in life, particularly because nothing's like for nothing. It's 100% certain whatsoever. And if someone tells you return somewhere are 100% certain, run a mile, absolute
yeah,
like nonsense on
yeah,
every level.
it is a
Yeah,
scam. Yeah,
100% scam. But I think I used to worry about it early, and that's when I was kind of in my learning phase, and I was kind of a couple of days or weeks into it. And over the last 6 years or so now, I've read a lot of books, I've listened to a lot of podcasts, I've done
my own research into it. I've spoken to like-minded individuals and also people who think the opposite. Um, and I kind of gather all of that, make my own decision, test the waters. So when I first started investing, I put £100 in per month into a global index. And I did that for 3 months or so. And when I put my first £100 in, I was like, right, that's done. I won't look at it till next month. And I looked at it the very next day because I just
Mm.
couldn't, I could not help myself. And then that hundred
Yeah.
pounds showed £97, and I was like, oh my God, it's going down. What do I do? I had a small panic. And then I asked a friend of mine, he was on a similar journey, but a bit further along than me. And he was like, you're panicking about £3, right? You'd spend that on a cup of coffee somewhere. Please don't worry about it. Over time, it will go up. And you know what? He
Mm.
was right. So thank you, Tom, for that. And I kind of tested it. I did another £100 the next month and a third one at £100. And I was like, over that time, I was learning to manage my emotional responses to like monetary drops, stock market issues, and stuff like that. And what actually happened right before that, sorry, right after I started investing, like COVID happened and everything went down 30 something percent. And I've been 100% equities from the start because that's where I was told the growth was. So I was like, well, that makes the most sense. I've sort of been tested with the market, but when you have a couple of hundred, maybe a few £1,000 invested and it drops 30%, that's very different to having £500,000 invested and it drops 30%. That's a whole different ballgame in terms of how you feel. My hope there is that people will have fully well-funded emergency funds. They won't need to sell when stock prices are low. And we've done a good enough job of helping people learn these lessons so they don't panic at that point, because it's not a maybe it will happen, it's a definitely it will happen over time, and it's the price of entry, to be honest. And I feel like some people who are a bit um, kind of keep their money in cash. It's very safe. It's very that. They'll have reasons for that. And it's just digging into why somebody thinks that way. Maybe they've been burnt before because they've taken a punt on a company. Maybe they grew up during, I don't know, their first kind of job working around was through like 2008 or 2000 or 87, something like that, where these real big kind of events happen, which actually we probably don't think about too much anymore. We might reference in conversation or a book as an example, but it's not having a huge impact on certainly my, can't speak for everyone else, but my day to day life. And I feel like if we can learn from those things, be good market historians, and then we think about how, like, what we can do now to benefit ourselves later on.
Yes, and I think Alex, you raised a really good point about, I guess, the timing in which I guess you maybe start your career or you start to learn about money and the broader economic environment um, at that time. I imagine would influence then your behavior or your money type. So, for example, if you were to have kind of started work in the kind of just after the financial crash, or yeah, like in the Black Black Monday, 1987, I think it was, or like in the dot-com boom, the stock markets have performed very differently in each of those times, and the security of employment has differed. And I just wonder that feeding back to the personalities, you might then, if you started work and it was, companies were, you only saw on the news that companies were making layoffs and it was hard to get jobs and there's so many hundreds of applicants for every job, you might then think, well, it's actually earning money is going to be quite hard, and almost be a bit of a worrier on that. And so you're like kind of super secure with your finances, or even like if you went pre-financial crash in like the early 2000s of the kind of city boom that we had, and it was um, you know, that could make you, if you started employment there, it would be you could walk into a job. There's things are only ever growing, the economy's doing well, and then it's, you'd be maybe much more of an optimizer or a dreamer even, just purely based on when you start to learn and start to form your opinions of money and finance and your role in it. So I thought that was, yeah, quite interesting thought about that. I don't know if you agree or if you've got a different viewpoint.
No, I do agree. But with the kind of the thinking around that, like we think about um, things every day. We're exposed to things every day, and all of those things leave not a mark, but they leave like an imprint on how we think and how we perceive stuff. So our brain's number one job is to keep us alive, so we can live and procreate, pass your genes down, etc. And if we think actually, oh, money is scarce, this is a problem, I have to worry about it all the time, I'm living hand to mouth, because you've been brought up in an environment that's what you've learned from your parents, guardians, or caregivers or something. You've grown up, and all you've seen is um, kind of not adverts, but things on the TV about newspapers or radio of things being companies down, people are jumping out of buildings, everyone's lost this much money. And we've said it before that there's no good news around the stock market, perhaps apart from when maybe a company IPOs and it goes through the roof, etc. There's never a actually, guys, this is okay. If we think back 50 years, everything points up and to the right because that doesn't sell. It doesn't ping that fear center, your amygdala in your mind to make you pay attention, to kind of heighten your awareness and take that information in, because our brain thinks about that from a survival point of view. That's why we get eyeballs and clicks, and that's the money that kind of money that comes in and it sells, which is why people do it. If Alex and I started a newspaper called Good News Finances or something, we'd probably sell a copy to each other and that's it, because it wouldn't go anywhere and do anything perhaps. And I feel like those messages that we learn, they leave a mark. So when we think about and this is why somebody might be an avoidant type for money, because if someone starts talking to you about money and everything in the fiber of your being is like, no, don't want to talk about it, don't want to think about it, rather stick my head in the sand and do nothing because it brings me back to a time of concern or worry in my mind, that it's going to be difficult to break that cycle, because that cycle is something that's been there a long time, and it takes quite a lot of mental effort to change the path really that's on. So I think that's why a lot of people struggle with their finances, because everything they've been exposed to is negative. There's not a lot of like positive money talk.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Because I wonder on like the flip side, certainly of the kind of the next generation of coming through who are almost grew up with social media on like
Mm,
the dreamer personality.
yeah.
I just think because on social media you see so much of it's just pure success and pure opulence and very quick. I wonder if that's influencing people's kind of day-to-day behaviors on like the traditional way of trying to get the I guess the traditional and proven way of getting wealthy of being disciplined, but it takes a long time, obviously, but investing steadily. And I wonder if, and obviously we have like the Bitcoin and the crypto bubble, and you see a lot of people getting very well off from that again in a very quick time frame. I just almost think if you're kind of the 18 to 21 now and having lived through all that, are you then just creating you're becoming this dreamer and us being like, well, I need to be rich quick because I just see young people on social media. Are you then willing to take on crazy risks to then try and get to that point, knowing, well, I'll invest in the next coin, what is it like the coin IPOs or whatever they have, or these meme things, and it's like, don't get me wrong, people have done well out of Bitcoin and everything, but I think it tends to be people that were in the know kind of 10 years ago have gone gangbusters and putting, their £1,000 is now worth 5 million.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's the thing again, isn't it? Well, like when your taxi driver starts talking to you about investing in whatever, it's already far too late.
Yeah.
And that ship has long sailed and you're not even in the water. Or you've just left in the water at this point. You're not even close to the boat. And I think just an interesting point on, we've discussed what you see on social media is not always the truth. People
Hmm.
only post highlight reels of life. There's a huge amount there of survivorship bias. So if we think about perhaps the meme stocks and particular coins and things, a lot of people will have got nothing or less than nothing out of that. And like money doesn't go anywhere. It gets transferred from person to company to person, and really person to person. So when I buy something, money goes from me to someone else, and it's just a circular thing. It doesn't just dissolve or anything like that. So for one person to make, say, 5 million quid off of Bitcoin, any kind of cryptocurrency, or anyone else, that money's come from somewhere, and it's probably a little bit or a lot from a wide number of people, and it's all been hoovered up and given to one single person. So it's always a transfer. It's not created out of thin air, unless we're thinking about kind of governments pumping money, fresh money into society, like quantitative easing. And what that actually does is devalue the pounds that we already have. So we all get a little bit poorer in terms of our money can't buy as much as we used to buy. So I would think very carefully about the media you consume, especially something around like Wall Street bets. You see some absolute craziness going on there, and yeah, I don't know.
Was that like the
It
GameStop?
was, yeah,
Um,
yeah. So that's where that
yeah,
originated from, Reddit, Wall Street Bets, or WSB. So I sometimes have a look at that, and that's literally where it originated from. And when you think about the number of people involved in that, putting money in, a lot of people were left holding the bag at that point, and they're holding empty, valueless stocks now, and they'll have put some money
mhm.
in. That money's been trickled all the way up. It's a pump and dump type scheme where the people who orchestrate it get filthy rich at the top. I think the main guy there, scooped about 12 million or something. And everyone else is left
Wow.
with nothing or less than nothing, and they end up losing out because that money's got to come from somewhere. It's not magicked into thin air by anyone else. It's a little bit from a lot of people, and it's kind of a funnel, but in reverse.
Yeah, because I did watch, I think there's a documentary on that, and it was on Netflix, and it's quite fascinating to see because they interview people from all different, I guess, parts of the graph. So as it went, as it like had
Mm-hmm.
the hockey stick and went up, there were people that were holding it from the bottom, and then yeah, people that got in at the top, and then it started to come down again. And
Yeah.
it's a shame, but I guess I don't know if people are so desperate to try and attain that they're just willing to put so much on the line. Like, I mean, I have one of my neighbors, she's in her 70s, and she ended up losing, I can't remember how much. It was tens of thousands, like low tens of thousands on a crypto scam. Like there was a letter that came through the post, um, and then
Oh.
she basically sent them some money. Went through the bank and ended up getting the money back because it was like a proper fraud thing. But it's like, why are you why are you doing that? Like, why would like
Mm.
you live in this little cul-de-sac? Why would these hotshot cryptocurrency people be writing to you to then um, invest in this unknown opportunity that nobody else knows about? Uh, it,
Yeah, and they just want to invite you.
yeah, that's it. It's like, just use. Oh wow, I've been chosen. It's like, well, that's
Yeah, a bit odd.
clearly a scam. But I can't remember the exact numbers, but it was yeah, tens of thousands. It was a lot of money, a meaningful amount of money
Mm.
for a pensioner. Um,
Yeah, definitely for anyone,
yeah,
I'd
yeah, for
argue.
anybody. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And but I mean, it all got refunded back and stuff. But yeah, it was it's that thing of desperation. Oh, I've got this quick book in front of me now. All I have to do is this,
Hmm.
and it's that such an instant. It's that dreamer mindset of, oh yeah, if I do that, then I'll be living on a yacht for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I mean, or we don't know anything about this lady. I don't, apart from that she's kind of elderly, perhaps a grandparent, or maybe if this does really well, I can buy my grandkids a house, or
Exactly.
I can
Yeah.
treat my neighbour to something, which will be you. I don't know.
Yeah, a nice red
Um,
Ferrari or something. Yeah.
That's it. And I wonder if it's like the same principle as lottery tickets. Like it's you're not paying in the hope that you're actually going to win. You're paying a little bit of money for the time you can spend dreaming.
Mm.
Maybe there's this life outsized return based on a kind of a punt of maybe some numbers coming in. But if you run the maths, it's millions and millions to one, and it's not a feasible strategy. Particularly for the masses. It might work for a very, 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 very small percentage of people, but it's yeah, in my opinion, not a good use of money. But I wonder what her thinking process was around that. perhaps, because you do hear of people who are otherwise switched on falling for these
Mm,
things, and when you add a potential huge outsized reward, a huge dollop of emotions going on, perhaps some not very critical thinking as well. You can see how people fall into these traps, and I think the more we um, kind of go, not go, but proceed as a society, the bigger the wealth divide
mm,
will get. And we'll see people like having hundreds of millions and billions of pounds and doing whatever. And then we think about our own existence and we're like, well, actually, I don't have that. So therefore, I kind of wish I did. I think all my problems would be solved. But actually, your problems will probably still remain. You just have a bit more money
mm.
around you, but it's the hope and the wish that those things would go away, and the belief that in certain cases a huge dollop of money would fix them. And it would fix a lot of problems, but it's not going to fix every problem.
Yeah, I think that's yeah, completely true. I think yeah, they say like money solves money problems,
Mm,
and I think there is something for kind of working hard and being disciplined over a period of time to then you know
mm,
obtain some money. There's a kind of a reward that goes with hard work there, and then, as opposed to the luck of oh, I just got lucky on a lottery ticket or a bingo card or whatever. Um,
definitely. We're back to the lottery winning chap who spent all of his money and then ended up back to working as a bin man
yeah,
again, aren't
that's
we?
it. Michael
The same
Carroll.
guy, Michael, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, him as an example.
but yeah, the dreamer.
Yeah, yeah, and then probably come right back down to avoiding now,
Well, that's it.
with a whole
Um,
hope of worry in between.
yeah,
Yeah, it's funny how you move through these cycles. Yeah, um, yeah. Anything else, Alex? You wanted to mention about the four types, and we've talked about each of them a little bit, how we relate to it. I think no, you discuss you, but did I discuss me as well?
yeah. I think it was
Yeah, a
is
bit.
moving through some of them. You're kind of moving through different phases of them.
Yeah.
I think I would just say if you are listening and you are an avoider or know somebody that is, because sometimes maybe it could be a partner or a close friend of yours,
Mm-hmm.
just encouraging them to obviously one listen to the podcast, but two, like it's will be it will relieve so much anxiety and worry by confronting your financial situation and starting to talk about money. So whether because I
Yeah.
went through a phase when I was at university and I was I knew I didn't have much money left. I'd gone into my overdraft and I was getting fees, which was the worst. And it was just like I remember just ignoring it, but then it builds up and builds up, and you keep getting the letters through, and then you start to then um, confront what's going on. I actually sold my car to clear off some of these, get out my overdraft and get onto a level playing field. But ever since then, I've been so on top of my finances, it almost swung me the other way.
I wonder if that's had an impact long term because now you've had to go through those whatever decisions led you to being in your overdraft and then thinking actually I have to save myself out of this now.
Hmm.
Perhaps one of the only things I own is the car, so that has to go to clear this off.
Yeah,
That's obviously an ordeal. Not, I mean, it's not capital T trauma, but it's something to go through. And perhaps that's changed you from being perhaps an avoider into an optimizer, and maybe why you're so good at that.
yeah, I think that definitely. I just know I would never ever want to go back to that position again because it
Mm.
was super stressful. And a lot of other emotions as well. You're embarrassed. I mean, I was doing a finance degree and I'm selling my
Yeah.
car to, it's like, um, but yeah, I think probably started off as a bit of a dreamer and spent all my, because it was when I did my masters and I had a pot of money at the start of the year to basically last me to the end of the year, but I just kept it all
Mm.
in a bank account. And so when you've got like, I think I had about maybe £7,000 or £8,000 to, that was like rent and food and living.
Mm. Seems a lot, but it's
It
not.
does, but it goes very quickly, especially as you get more sociable and things come up. And so yeah, and it was like, oh, right, yeah, that's gonna run out soon.
Yeah.
But that was
Yeah.
a real
It
kick.
seems a lot, doesn't it, at the beginning? And then actually, when you're 3 months down the line and you've paid a couple of chunky bills,
Yes.
but if you were to optimize or plan that and say, actually, this is what I've got for these months, these are my fixed outgoings, this is what I have discretionary. So a little bit of planning would have saved you perhaps that headache. But I think a lot of people fall into the trap where they're a little bit money naive. They
Hmm.
move to university for the first time, they get a big lump of cash in as a student loan or a maintenance payment or whatever. And they're like, well, this is great. I'm at uni. I've made it. I can spend all this money. And then those things will come home to roost and some of them bite you.
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I've been there myself. Um, I didn't have to sell my car, but I had a particularly, not embarrassing, but I had a conversation with my dad and I was like, I haven't got any money left to eat. Can I can I please have some? And luckily he said yes, and he gave me a little bit, and he sent me some, like a big box of food and a jumper and all sorts of stuff, like a literal care package in the post. um, yeah, and I've kind of had a moment like that as well. So yeah, I think it does change how we think and how we perceive things, and maybe that's the origin story for us being on this path.
Yeah, I think there's definitely weight to that. I think that
Mm,
was the one of the worst feelings I've had. Um, not just from stress, but like of, self-worth and everything. And then
mm,
you just almost, it's like I just want to anti that. So I never want to be like that again.
yeah, do the exact opposite, 100%.
Yeah, and then suddenly, you know, discovering FI and getting really involved in investing and personal finance, it's certainly gone the other
Mm.
way.
And look at you now,
Oh yeah, exactly.
buy your old car back.
Actually, oh yeah, it's a Nissan Micra. I sold it for like 700 quid. It was a dreadful car, but it retained some value at least, which then could allow me to live for another couple of months.
Pulled you out of your overdraft and eventually started you on this way so you can buy, I don't know, 4 Nissan Micras if you want.
Yeah, that's it.
Um, yeah, not financial advice, of course.
No,
Don't do that. But yeah. Okay, I think we've covered the 4 money types. So is there anything else you want to add or no?
no, just well, yeah. Thanks everybody again for listening, and if there are people that you think would be interested in listening to us, then yeah, please recommend us and give us your rating on Spotify. It really helps, or wherever you listen to your podcast.
Yeah, definitely. And again, if you want to come on and chat with us, you can definitely
Yeah,
do that. If you want to send us a quick email and say, look, at this point identifies this one of these types. If you're a dreamer, you're an optimizer, worrier, avoider, whatever, let us know and talk to us a little bit about how it's affected you, maybe how it's changed over time. And we always like good news stories as well. So I had a recent email from a chap called Joe, who he wrote, he listened to some of our episodes about kind of negotiating jobs, etc. And he's managed to land himself a £20,000 pay rise just by switching companies. So recently we've talked about the value in that and kind of changing jobs, etc. And for him to send that is incredible. I mean, it's not like we've had no impact in that whatsoever, but it's just really lovely to hear a good news story. And it's actually put him into the next tax bracket, which might need a little bit of tweaking. So it's just good to know that. To be honest, I felt really kind of happy to read it. So if anyone has any good news stories like that, and they want us to shout them out, or you want to come on and talk to us about how you managed it, if you've doubled your salary in the last 12 months or 2 years or something, and you want to discuss it wider, like Alex and I will happily discuss that with you, 100%. So wing us an email and we'll make it happen.
yeah, that's a massive story. Yeah, brilliant. Congratulations to Joe.
Yeah, a 20 grand bump off one of changing jobs is
Yeah.
crazy. But a real meaningful amount
Mm.
to like set you up for just a real good like springboard for financial independence now. It's humongous. So yeah, congratulations, Joe, and yeah, keep up the good work. None of what we discuss on the show is to be considered financial or health advice, and we recommend you always do your own research or consult an independent financial advisor or a doctor when making your financial or health decisions.